Malaysia and Vietnam set to expand bilateral relations to greater heights. MECC denies selective persecution ahead of state elections. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Mohanapriya and this is Updates at Noon. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim considers Vietnam a very close friend of Malaysia since diplomatic relations were established between both countries 5 decades ago. He said both countries have established excellent bilateral relations and Malaysia is ready to expand the present collaboration and special relationship to greater heights.
Because of the resilience of the leadership and the people, you have been enormously successful in a few decades. Established Vietnam as a an important country in ASEAN and have not only survived the calamities, but now has been able to register as one of the most promising developing countries in the world.
Datuk Seri Anwar said this in his speech at an official dinner hosted by Prime Minister of Vietnam, Pham Minh Chinh, in Hanoi last night. Besides Chin, other dignitaries at the dinner were Minister of Foreign Affairs, Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir, as well as Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz. Earlier, when paying a courtesy call on the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, CPV, Nguyen Phu Trong, Datuk Seri Anwar said he was happy with the cooperation between both countries in efforts to strengthen bilateral relations. Meanwhile, both Datuk Seri Anwar and Chin witnessed the signing of the Memorandum of Cooperation between the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia and NCCIM and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry VCCI. NCCIM was represented by its president Tan Sri Datuk So Tian Lai, while the VCCI by its chairman cum president Pham Tan Chong. Both leaders also witnessed the exchange of agreed minutes of the 7th Joint Commission meeting on Economic, Scientific and Technology Cooperation JCM7 between Malaysia and Vietnam. Malaysian Foreign Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir signed the documents for Malaysia, while Vietnam was represented by its Foreign Minister Bui Tan Son. The disclosure of the theft of rare earth elements REE in Bukit Enggang, Sikh, is not intended to tarnish the image of Kedah Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Mohammad Sanusi Mat Noor. According to Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail, it is to show that there is an issue of administrative malpractice. Datuk Seri Saifuddin said his disclosure on the REE theft issue was just the tip of the iceberg of a series of other disclosures on the matter.
Benda tu dia sebahagian daripada isu pentadbiran dan isu governance. Dia tak ada peluk apa tu. Nah, peluk dia adalah kita tanya pasal apa buat masuk tenaga kerja pada China. Untuk kemudiannya terlibat dengan isu bawa keluar nadia bumi cara tidak mengikut peraturan. Istilahnya adalah mengalih dan memindahkan something like that lah dalam kanun tanah negara tu. Okey, dia tak ada lah peluk-peluk nici sangatlah benda tu.
The Home Minister said the investigation will continue, involving several agencies. This is because the first arrest was made last January, which then led to investigation papers being opened by the Forestry Department and the Department of Mineral and Geoscience, JMG. In a related development, Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki has denied the allegation of selective persecution ahead of the upcoming election. Tan Sri Azam also denied that the MACC was pressured by certain quarters to expedite the investigation.
Ini tak ada kaitan dengan pilihan raya. Ini kes ni adalah kes yang mana berlaku akibat daripada laporan yang kita terima pada orang ramai. Kalau katakan laporan ini berlaku sebelum pilihan raya, lepas pilihan raya pun tak ada masalah. Jadi saya tidak ada meletakkan tentang satu timeline. Sebelum pilihan raya dia saksi, lepas pilihan raya jadi suspek pula. Bukan begitu. Kalau orang tu suspek sebelum pilihan raya ke lepas pilihan raya tetap akan samalah. Jadi kita akan tentukan selepas kita memanggil seseorang, keterangan-keterangan kita kumpulkan untuk kita lihatlah kepentingan seseorang itu.
The Ministry of Education, MOE, will not compromise if a Year 5 student's allegation that he was injured after being caned by his principal in Segamat, Johor, is true. Its Minister Fadlina Siddiq said the MOE has already handed over the matter to the relevant authorities, and intervention sessions that include psychological support for those involved have been implemented.
Kita serahkan pada siasatan. Dalam masa yang sama, kita kena hormat proses siasatan itu, dan semua siasatan ini akan dimaklumkan kembali kepada KPM. Jadi kita tak kompromi sekiranya ada terdapat benar-benar dakwaan dan juga ada charge. Kita akan bekerjasamalah dengan pihak autoriti. Dalam masa yang sama, intervensi-intervensi khususnya untuk yang kita panggil sebagai sokongan psikososial pada guru dan murid yang terlibat juga kita buat.
The media recently reported that a student of Sekolah Jenis Kebangsaan Tamil suffered injuries to his face and body after allegedly being caned by the principal for not completing his homework. Fadlina said the MOE will give its full attention to this matter and let it serve as a lesson, thus making for a safe school ecosystem. In our foreign segment, US Army launches investigation into soldier held in Pyongyang. Stay tuned. But first, at least 16 people were killed yesterday after a landslide smashed into their village in India's Maharashtra state, with locals fearing the toll could rise significantly. India's National Disaster Response Force said that 16 people had been killed and they had called off the rescue operations because of continuous rains and threat of further landslides. Rescue teams were battling lashing rain in the remote hilly and forested Raigad district, with people scrambling at mounds of earth and rubble. The state's Deputy Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, said at least 1,000 workers were part of the rescue team. Fadnavis said that around 200 people live in the area and that 70 had been rescued. Police officer Harish Kalsekar told the media earlier that nearly 50 people were feared buried under the debris. Interior Minister Amit Shah said the priority was to evacuate people from the scene and treat the injured immediately. India has been battered by rains since the start of the monsoon season in June, and flooding and landslides have killed scores of people. Monsoon rains are vital to replenishing rivers and groundwater, but the deluge also causes widespread destruction every year. Experts say climate change is increasing the number of extreme weather events around the world, with damming, deforestation, and development projects in India exacerbating the human toll. Tensions flared between Iraq and Sweden on Thursday over a Stockholm protest in which a man stomped on the Quran weeks after he had burnt pages of Islam's holy book, sparking widespread Muslim anger. Now, news that Swedish authorities would permit the protest to proceed on free speech grounds had led hundreds of Iraqis to storm and torch Sweden's Baghdad embassy in a chaotic pre-dawn attack. Iraq's government condemned the attack, but it retaliated against the protest in Sweden by expelling its ambassador, vowing to sever ties, and suspending the operating license of Swedish telecom giant Ericsson. Around the time the protest outside the Iraqi embassy in Stockholm, Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani instructed the Swedish ambassador in Baghdad to leave Iraqi territory. The decision was prompted by the Swedish government's repeated permission for the burning of the Holy Quran, insulting Islamic sanctities and the burning of the Iraqi flag. Sweden and other European countries have previously seen protests where far-right and other activists, citing free speech protections, damage or destroy religious symbols or books, often sparking protests. Calm had returned by morning when police blocked access to the embassy, but the extent of the damage remained unclear. English hospitals braced Thursday for the latest doctor strike to hit the state-run health service, with managers warning it will leave routine care virtually at a standstill. Now, the two-day strike with consultants comes amid record patient waiting times due to a vast pandemic backlog and multiple strikes across the economy over the past year as workers battle a cost of living crisis. National Health Service Medical Director Stephen Powys said this could undoubtedly be the most severe impact they had ever seen in the NHS as a result of industrial action, with routine care virtually at a standstill for 48 hours. The action follows months of disruption as health staff have walked out, leading to delayed treatment and cancelled appointments for hundreds of thousands of patients. Junior doctors staged an unprecedented 5-day stoppage earlier this month over pay and staff retention, their third walkout since April. Nurses and ambulance staff have also taken strike action, eventually accepting a 5% pay rise in May. Powys said emergency and urgent care would be prioritised in the 8th month of industrial action, and with more than 600,000 appointments already affected, it's becoming even more challenging to get services back on track after each round of action.
So I'm a cardiologist.
French President Emmanuel Macron reshuffled his government yesterday as he looks to move on from a series of crises since his re-election last year. After weeks of speculation that he might change Prime Minister, the 45-year-old head of state said on Monday that he was sticking with under-fire Elizabeth Borne. Advisers and ministers had long argued over whether the centrists should carry out a major overhaul of the cabinet to signal a fresh start, but in the end, the reshuffle was limited in scope. The highest-profile change saw the replacement of Pap Ndiaye, France's first black education minister, who, despite a stellar CV as an academic and expert in race relations, appeared to struggle in France's raucous political environment. He was replaced by Gabriel Attal, an ambitious 34-year-old former government spokesman, while other changes took place in health, housing and social affairs ministries. Junior Interior Minister Marlene Schiappa was also sacked after she became embroiled in a scandal and irked her colleagues by posing for a Playboy magazine in the middle of the protests over the pension reform in April. The United States fears an American soldier held by North Korea may be mistreated by Pyongyang, which has yet to respond to inquiries about his fate. Private second-class Travis King was due to return to the United States to face disciplinary consequences after serving jail time in South Korea, but instead left the airport, joined a tour of the border, and fled across it. The U.S. Army has launched an investigation into the incident, the Pentagon said, but officials have made it clear that their first priority is securing the soldier's release. Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth, said that Washington is worried about the treatment the soldier may receive in Pyongyang. She referenced the case of Otto Warmbier, an American who was held for a year and a half before being released in a coma to the United States and dying 6 days later. State Department spokesman Matt Miller also cited Pyongyang's history of mistreating detainees. He added the case continues to be an extremely high priority for the department. Washington has sought information about King through UN channels and that various parts of the government are involved in the effort. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday launched the first part of Arctic LNG-2, a massive liquefied natural gas LNG project at Murmansk in the Arctic. Arctic LNG-2 is one of Russia's key projects in its drive to open a northern maritime route linking Asia and Europe. The project, which has an estimated cost of $21 billion, aims to achieve a production capacity of 19.8 million tons of LNG a year using 3 production lines. French energy giant Total Energies had been linked to the project, but in 2022 announced it was pulling out after Russia launched its military operation in Ukraine. Novatek controls 60% of the project, and its partners are China's CNPC and CNOOC, as well as Japan Arctic LNG. Moscow hopes that this route will in time be able to compete with the Suez Canal as a route for transporting hydrocarbons. The project would help Russia achieve its goal of gaining 20% of the global LNG market by 2035 from around 8% currently. Next, Australia kicks off Women's World Cup with a win. That and more in sports. Opening our sports segment today with news on the Korean Open, national women's badminton duo Perlitan and Tina crashed out of the tournament after losing 17-21, 21-17, 19-21 to world number 1 Chen Qing-chen and Jia Yifan from China. However, the national pair proved that they were not easily put down. They fought back after losing the first set 17-21 and dragged the game into rubber set. However, the Chinese pair were proved to be too much for them to handle. The loss means that Perli Tina, who are the world number 11, had never won a single match against Qing Chen Yi Fan in all of their 4 meetings. Meanwhile, men's single Ng Ziyong stunned Hong Kong top player Angus Ng Ka Long in straight sets 21-18, 21-17 and moved on to the quarterfinals. Also moving on, the national men's doubles Go Si Fei Nur Izzuddin Rumsani continued their successful run into the quarterfinals. The pair, who had just crowned US Open 2023 champions on Sunday, stopped compatriots and 6th seeds Ong Yu Sin Teo E Yi 25-23, 21-15 in the second round. Moving on to the Women's World Cup campaign, co-hosts Australia laboured initially in the absence of injured captain Sam Kerr, but a second-half penalty from Steph Catley got them off to a solid start at the Women's World Cup with a 1-0 win over Ireland in Group B on Thursday. The news that striker Kerr had been ruled out by a calf injury stunned the record crowd of 75,784 as it filtered into Stadium Australia. But Catley stepped up to take the captain's armband and score the decisive goal in the 52nd minute. Ireland, cheered on by a noisy band of compatriots, made life difficult for the Australians with their compact defence and might have forced an equaliser during a period of sustained pressure late in the second half. Australia, however, held on to make a winning start to a tournament in which they feel they can be genuine contenders after wins over England, Spain and France this year. And in another match, Hannah Wilkinson scored a second-half winner to secure underdogs New Zealand to a 1-0 win against Norway at Eden Park last night. The co-host kicked off their Women's World Cup campaign at home with a bright start after what was considered as an extraordinary upset over the former champions. The Football Ferns had never won a World Cup match before, and Wilkinson's goal from close range early in the second half off a laser-like cross from Jackie Hand sent the home fans into roars of delight. The win puts New Zealand on the right track towards their goal of getting out of the opening stage of the tournament as they face debutant the Philippines on Tuesday in a match that had widely been seen as their best chance of winning in Group A.
We waited for this moment for such a long time, and having this opportunity at home, beating Norway, strong opposition, hearing our fans being behind us, that's just unforgettable moment for me as a coach, and of course for all the players that have been involved.
And in transfer news, Riyad Mahrez is drawing closer to a move to the Saudi Pro League after Al Ahly agreed a £30 million fee for the Manchester City winger. The 32-year-old, who has spent 5 years in Manchester following his arrival from Leicester City, is expected to sign a 3-year deal with the club. The Algerian will be free to proceed with his medical after being left out of Man City's tour of Japan, which got underway yesterday. He will be joining Al Ahly's side, who have already signed former Liverpool star Roberto Firmino and ex-Chelsea goalkeeper Edouard Mendy this summer. Mahrez's departure from the Premier League champions brings an end to his storybook time on English shores following his unheralded arrival from French side Le Havre in 2014. The forward made his mark with Leicester City, becoming a driving force in the side's survival from relegation in his debut campaign. He was also honoured, named PFA Players Player of the Year after Leicester City lifted an unbelievable Premier League crown in 2016. Upon his arrival in Manchester following a £60 million transfer, Mahrez has played an integral part in Pep Guardiola's all-conquering side, claiming 10 major trophies in just 5 seasons. Paris Saint-Germain's Kylian Mbappe returned to training on Thursday after his holidays amid a standoff with the club over his contract. Relations between the French forward and Mbappe soured last month after the 2018 World Cup winner said he would not renew his contract, which expires at the end of next season, meaning he can leave for free in June 2024. If he runs down his contract, PSG would be unable to recoup any of the 180 million euros they spent to sign him from AS Monaco. PSG President Nasser Al-Khelaifi had previously said that the club will not let him go for free. Former Nordea Open champion Casper Ruud began his quest for an 11th tour-level title in style on Thursday when he cruised past Alexander Shevchenko 6-2, 6-4 to reach the quarterfinals in Bostad. The top seed was in control throughout the 79-minute clash at the ATP 250 clay court event. Ruud now holds an 18-6 record on clay this season and will next face Austrian Sebastian Ofner after the 27-year-old defeated Spaniard Bernabe Zapata Miralles 4-6, 6-4, 6-4. The Norwegian Rudd, who lifted the trophy in Bastad in 2021, is chasing his second tour-level crown of the season after triumphing on clay in Estoril. The 24-year-old is currently 8th in the Pepperstone ATP Live Race to Turin and is seeking a deep run to further consolidate his position. Meanwhile, second seed Andrei Rublev overcame qualifier Pavel Kotov 6-3, 7-6 in 1 hour 33 minutes to reach his 8th tour-level quarterfinal of the season and third on clay. Rublev, who rallied from a breakdown in the first set, is chasing his second tour-level crown of the year in Bastad. In April, the 27-year-old captured the biggest title of his career when he clinched his first ATP Masters 1000 trophy in Monte Carlo. Rublev is making his second appearance at the ATP 250, having advanced to the semi-finals last year. He will have his work cut out against Zverev, who leads Rublev 5-1 in their Lexus ATP head-to-head series. Elsewhere, Argentine Pedro Cachin reached his first tour-level quarterfinal of the season on Thursday at the Nego when he downed the world number 42 Italian 6-3, 3-6, 6-4 to improve to 3-0 in the pair's Lexus ATP head-to-head series. With his victory, the Spaniard earned his first win against the top 50 semi-finals last year, and he will meet Juan Pablo Varillas in the quarterfinals. And in Motor Rally, Cal Rovanpera's quest for a third straight Rally Estonia victory got off to an ideal start as he went quickest on the shakedown stage. The defending world champion was a clear winner of the 4.08-kilometer Castor speed test as he traversed it 1.2 seconds quicker than the rest. Rovanpera's benchmark time of 1 minute 58.8 seconds came on the third pass of the stage, which became increasingly rutted towards its conclusion. The signs of a first success in the Tartu-based event seems equally positive for Hyundai Motorsport, as Thierry Neuville completed the exercise second quickest in a time of 2 minutes dead, with Esa-Pekka Lappi a further half a second behind in third. Rovanpera is currently 41 points ahead of Alfyn Evans, with Sebastian Ogier in third. Home hero Ott Tanak only got one attempt at Castres before engine trouble pushed him to the sidelines.
Perkembangan epik, dua kekasih bola sepak Malaysia. Juara bertahan kini bersedia menggegar aksi perlawanan. Atau The City Boys bakal menggamatkan aksi perjuangan dalam perlawanan akhir Piala FA 2023. Sabtu 22 Julai, Johor Darul Takzim bertemu Kuala Lumpur City FC 8.30 malam di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM.
Esports and gaming, then be sure to stay tuned to RTM because something new is coming.
And with that, we reach the end of today's Updates at Noon. In our leading story today, Malaysia and Vietnam set to expand bilateral relations to greater heights. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. for more news on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Now, before you go, let's watch a clip of the Women's World Cup opening ceremony in Auckland, New Zealand. Till then, I'm Mohana Priya, Malaysia Madani, Tekad Perpaduan, Penuhi Harapan.